ready for me to whisper in your ear? If so, welcome to Wednesday Night Whispers with your host, the domesticated diva, LaTasha Scurry.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, good evening, good afternoon, or morning, depending where you are in the world. Welcome to my show. You are viewing me live on LSTV. I love to talk, so this is my station for education. I'm your host, LaTasha Scurry. Alcohol use disorder, a chronic disease characterized by uncontrolled drinking and preoccupation with alcohol. Alcoholism is the inability to control drinking due to a physical and emotional dependence on alcohol. My guest has her own heroic story to tell about drinking. Let's welcome Miss Annette Simmons.
Hello, LaTasha.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am awesome, and I'm delighted that you're here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Delighted. Yes, ma'am. Guys, you know, she's been on my show before, but we're talking about different things. Tonight, she is talking about something dear to my heart. It is alcoholism, and I'll share, hopefully, why this is so important to me. This is a special show tonight. So I'm not going to prolong it. I'm just going to jump right in. Miss Annette, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am pushing 63 and pushing it pretty hard. My husband and I live in Tampa in the same beautiful community that you and Henry and a host of gorgeous assorted children and adult children do. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and raised in Tallahassee, and went back to Minnesota after my undergraduate college years. Lived there and met and married my husband, and we left Minnesota in 2016 to come back to Florida. So here we are. We've been married for almost 29 years. I don't have any children. And we've chosen that life, and we're very happy with that. So that's me in a nutshell.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. You can go when you want to go, right?
Well, you know, it's one thing. I love children, but I also know that I think it takes a special person with a special set of skills and heart to be the parent that a child deserves. And as good as I am at many things, I knew that there was something missing there. There were several other reasons, but I never felt the pull towards motherhood. And I thought there's a reason for that. And until that pull came, I was not going to take a chance on giving birth to a child who would be very unhappy. And my husband felt the same way. So, yeah. But I love children. I love living in a child-centered community too. And your little Janai, oh my gosh. Angel. Just an
that's
angel.
a little stinker now. She's talking.
Oh my.
Well, we'll jump right into this. Okay. So, when did you start drinking? Actually, just getting the feel of alcohol?
Although I'd had, the proverbial sips of daddy's beer, which he never thought anything of giving to us kids, I probably started drinking with a certain amount of just intent in my junior year of high school. That was in 1978. And but that was very intermittent. And I really started drinking consistently when I left Tallahassee and went to college in another city. And at that time, 18 was the legal drinking age, so it was very easy. Then we had a student pub on campus and all of that, and that just became a regular part of my life. So it wasn't as young as some people who develop alcoholism that I've, known, but I also wasn't, exactly in my older years when I started. So.
Okay, so when did you realize that it was a problem?
Actually, the college that I went to, which I will not name, was known as a party school. Probably all schools were party schools in one way or another. I actually suspected when I was 20 years old that there was something abnormal about my drinking. But when you're seeing everybody else, or almost, when you're seeing a lot of other people your age, your status, doing the same thing, sometimes doing it more and doing other kinds of chemicals as well, that was a very easy thing for me to just kind of put in a closet in the back of my mind. So that was the first stage where I thought something was kind of abnormal about my drinking. And sadly, things worsened over the next 6 years. And I paid some pretty heavy consequences during those years, not the least of which was walking away from my school without finishing my degree. And the drinking gradually worsened from a few days a month to a few days a week to every day, sometimes morning drinking, and until the 4 days before my 26th birthday. And it was, despite the fact that I was not even 26, I met, I think, a lot of the criteria for early, late stage alcoholism, just based on different, tests that you can take. Do you do this? Do you do that? I was into early, late stage drinking by then. So.
Wow. So how do you think you actually became an alcoholic? What labeled you that? And then do you think alcoholism is hereditary? Do you think that?
To the second question, I do think there's a hereditary component for a lot of people. And for myself, I do believe that at the very least, I believe I was born an alcoholic. And I define that as a person who is physiologically incapable of processing alcohol in a healthy way. And so I think I was born with that because the impact that alcohol had on me, even in my earlier years when it might have been just a sip of creme de menthe or something like that, was really like, wow. I mean, I really dialed into it. I think normal people, they like it, but I mean, I think there was an intensity of that connection that was true at a very early age. And I think that was my destiny. And I think for me, it was hereditary. My late father was an alcoholic. My late mother developed alcoholism late in her 40s, which was weird. Usually it starts earlier. My late older brother was an alcoholic and had other substance abuse disorders. A maternal uncle and maternal great aunt, I also believe, were alcoholic. And so on both sides of the family tree, it was present. And actually, in my nephew, my late brother's older son, and both of my nephews, I think they've developed drinking problems as well. But poor Anthony, actually, he died in Afghanistan in combat back in 2010. But both of them had drinking problems too. So I don't believe that it is always hereditary. It's hard for me not to believe there's a physiological glitch in there for the individual, that maybe some people can create their own alcoholism. The research, I think, is still very conflicting on that. Long answer to a short question, but for me, I was born that way. I'm convinced of it.
Okay. Okay. So what was your preferred drink? Did you like just alcohol, beer, wine? What was it? Or was it all of it? Did you want it all?
Well, it depended on the year. I think when I first got to college and, wasn't just sneaking stuff out of my mom and dad's liquor cabinet, it was Chablis, because it sounded cool. I liked dry white wine. I didn't like stuff that was sweet. And then as the intake increased, I realized there are other things out there, and there are other things called bars that weren't just the wine and beer pub. I developed a love for gin and tonics, and then that kind of evolved into a gin and no tonic. I also like rum and cokes, and I evolved into, it was hard to develop a taste for whiskey, bourbon, ride that matrix, but I managed. And it just, as things worsened and got more, and I loved a couple of mixed drinks like Black Russians, which was, two heavy alcohols mixed together. But as things worsened, I didn't almost care what I drank as long as it had alcohol in it. And as was moving through my 20s, I was working a series of low-end jobs, low pay. It was anything I could get. And I was terrible at managing money. And sometimes I didn't have the cash to go to the liquor store, and I didn't qualify for a credit card, but I did have a store charge card. And so I started charging Listerine mouthwash, which has a very high concentration of alcohol in it. And I was drinking that towards the end. So to say it was a downward spiral, it absolutely was. The consumption increased, and my lack of concern about what I was drinking both spiraled. So
that is very interesting. First of all, I didn't know Listerine had that much alcohol in it, but then the fact that you could say, "Hey, you know what? I just need the alcohol." Didn't matter what it was. I just needed the alcohol. So I hate to say it, but it is true alcoholism. It's a true disorder.
Mm-hmm. I think that many alcoholics get to a certain point where it doesn't matter what it tastes like. I believe the wife of a former governor, I don't know if he's still alive, but former Governor Michael Dukakis, I think of Massachusetts, his wife Kitty was alcoholic. And I think that she was caught drinking nail polish remover in a treatment facility. I may be wrong on that story, but it's amazing the lengths that a substance abuser of any chosen chemical, it's amazing the lengths they'll go to get their fix.
Wow. So what's the worst thing you've done to anyone while you were drunk?
To put it in context, during my drinking years, I was living in a different city, and at times, for a while, a different state, than my family of origin. And so we didn't have much day-to-day contact. We were just, thousands of miles away. So they weren't affected by my day-to-day, behavior patterns. And I had, kind of bounced from one shitty relationship, to another. No children.
No, yeah.
So my human relationships were few and far between. I think the worst thing that I did, that I will always, always hate myself, is that I drank so heavily the night before the funeral of a beloved family member who had actually been killed in a drunk driving accident, I missed her funeral. And I was always seen as the good little girl in the Simmons family. And that, I think, opened people's eyes. I don't know that they were aware that I was drunk through it, but that, I'm not inclined to throw everything into the alcoholism bin and think that that is a get out of jail free card in terms of moral condemnation. I just don't. So, but I think that's the worst thing I've ever done. And these are things I can't undo.
Oh, I am so sorry. So sorry. What's the most... Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you go ahead. I'm no saint. I've made mistakes, and at times I've not been a good person.
So what was the most dangerous time for you when you were intoxicated?
I still can't believe I survived this. I was drinking one night downtown after work, and I stayed a little longer than even I might be inclined to do. And I had no car, so I was riding the bus. I got on the wrong bus, and that took me way, way to the end of the line of a suburb that was 2 tiers away from downtown Minneapolis, totally, miles from my house. And they made me get off at the last stop. I didn't know where I was. It was night, and I had to wait hours for the next run, because that was the last run of the evening for that particular route. Somehow I managed not to pass out. I willed myself to stay awake, and I just waited. And I was frightened. I mean, after the booze slowly left my brain, I was aware enough to know this was a bad scene. But somehow I survived that. Thankfully, there wasn't anybody around, which in the Twin Cities area, crime happens. I got lucky. And I'll tell you what, even that didn't tell me that it was time.
Really?
Yeah.
So when did you know it was time?
July 20th, 1987 at 8:10 a.m. Blistering hot morning. We were in the midst of a heat wave. I was living in an unair conditioned rooming house. I woke up having no memory of going to bed the night before. I'd gone out partying with some friends, and I was in blackout, and I'd had blackouts for about the past 8 months. I was late for work again, screaming hangover again, nausea again, messy, unwashed, unkempt again. And I looked at the day in front of me, and it was like I'd already lived it, because it was going to be the same day I'd lived for about the past 6 months. And that was this like endless doom loop of morning hangover, afternoon withdrawal, working into cravings, and then nighttime blotto binge drinking. And I was laying there, and something just broke in me. I will never forget that. It was like something deep inside my sternum just went. And I said to myself, or someone inside me said, I can't do this today. So I crawled out of bed, somehow got cleaned up, found something that was clean enough to wear to work, plodded on in, laid low, did my work, went back home at the end of the day, did not stop off at a liquor store, the department store to get my Listerine. I went home, wasn't hungry, did a load of laundry, and went to bed. And the next morning, Tuesday morning, I woke up, no hangover, still feeling a little jittery from, whatever I had done on Sunday. But I could remember everything that I'd done the day before and the night before. No blackout, nothing. And I said, I couldn't drink yesterday. I won't drink today. And the todays kind of hooked on one to the other. By Thursday, I was feeling, my hands had stopped shaking. I could drink a cup of coffee without getting the jitters. And I thought, wow, 4 days without a drink. And I was also looking at what a pathetic shell of a life I had let myself devolve to. No friends, crap job, no college degree, no real, kind of a scruffy home situation, history of bouncing from Mr. Right Now to Mr. Right Now. And I thought, I am the lowest toad on the planet. But I think it's better to be a sober toad than a drunk toad. And that's where it really began. One day after another. That's what got it started.
Did you go to a rehabilitation center, or you just did it on your own?
I did it largely on my own for the first 18 months. I had flirted with AA a couple of timid times back before I left to come back to Minnesota. And I found it very threatening because of the language of alcoholism and alcoholic recovery, especially the first step. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable, and that frightened me. And the practice of strict abstinence from alcohol, that was an absolute. And I wanted to be that person, but I didn't want it bad enough. I mean, after the jitters faded away, I started drinking again. So I just thought in 1987, I thought, I'll just go through these days. Strict abstinence is the only way I can do it. But I'll do one day at a time. And when I feel it's right, I'll go to AA. And actually, I really didn't start going to fellowship meetings until I was clean from alcohol about 18 months. And I joined a few, I became part of that community. I think I derived some real benefits from it, and I hope I gave some benefits in return. But I didn't feel like it was something that I needed to keep me sober. It helped me clarify some things, and it did reinforce what a terrible, terrible scourge alcoholism is. But I stopped going after about 3 or 4 years because I felt like I was using it to hide from doing some work in the real world, like maybe finishing my college degree. It was easy to hide behind that rather than get some life repair work done. So mostly it's been just me and my daily decisions. And it became not even a decision anymore after a while. It was just a natural thing.
Relapse after that, or you've been clean?
Yes,
Did you relapse after 87?
I'm sorry, you cut out there. Could you repeat your question, please?
I said, did you relapse after 87?
Nope. Never once.
Nope.
And I actually got very, very paranoid about instances where I might inadvertently ingest alcohol. There was only one, and one of the things that really was very unusual. I experienced a very unusual blessing. I never, except for one occasion, had even the slightest craving for a drink. You know, that physical pull for something that a lot of substance abusers and addicts struggle with, is that physical craving for the substance. I never had that except one time when I was walking down the street past my favorite pub at my favorite time of year, early autumn, and I could smell the smell of, you know, wine or whatever, and I thought, it just hit me. And I thought, walk, bitch, keep walking. But that's how powerful it was. But I have never had a craving for alcohol, nor have I ever wanted alcohol to calm my nerves in a stressful situation, or to think, oh, hey, this is a great thing. Why don't we have some champagne to celebrate? Never had that, and that's very unusual. And I'm very lucky for that.
So you don't drink at all now?
No.
At all?
No. In fact, the fellowships that I went to were their philosophies were pretty consistent, that abstinence from all mood and mind altering substances is critical to sobriety. Regardless of whether you ever had even used any others in the past. I never used cocaine. I never used opiates. Thank God. I never used, I think I had a few hits of a marijuana, I guess you call them a blunt, whatever. At least those youngins call it that now. They were always in my day. I'd had marijuana maybe 5 times. It was never my thing, but no mood or mind altering substances, to the point where when I went to the dentist, no laughing gas. And if I needed a breath freshener, no mouthwash, because that had alcohol in it. I had to ask people who had cooked foods if they had cooked it with alcohol, and I'd have to decline if it was cooked with alcohol, because no, it doesn't burn off. One time I took a bite of what I thought was a brownie ball. It was a brownie and rum ball, and that my aunt had made, and I had to spit it out. So strict abstinence is not easy a lot of times, just because alcohol is just soaked into the landscape, but it is simple. And this simple mind needs simple things, you know? Okay. I don't want to do any more drunk math. Let's see, if I decided to have a drink, it would probably be about a full bottle, and I would have to have a drunk and a hangover for the next 18 hours, so I could clear the decks for that. And I'd have to hide so that I don't go and crash something. You know, that kind of drunk math, because I know what drunk people do. I know what I did most of the time. It's simpler this way.
Now, who do you think you hurt the most with your addiction?
This might sound self-serving, but because I was not in any meaningful relationships or ongoing relationships where I really dumped my crap, I'd have to say that I'm the person I hurt the most. I will go on record as saying, I don't know why any employer kept me on, because I really had my times of great unreliability and not being a good fit for the workplace. Somehow I did. Maybe they were just hurting for staff, but I could have been a much better employee than I was during my drinking days. But in terms of hurt, thankfully, I didn't torture any children. I didn't torture any spouse or significant other. My siblings were off, and my parents, who had been divorced a long time, were off living their own lives, and again, in a different state. So I was alone, and I'm grateful for that.
Okay. So do you miss it? How did you manage those emotions?
Well, for a long time, the emotions were all wonderful because without the constant infusion of alcohol into my system, even though alcohol allegedly makes you feel great, especially that first drink, alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. And so many heavy drinking alcoholics are in a constant state of clinical depression that's chemically induced. So I was on what they called the pink cloud after quitting drinking. And I mean, the world was great. If I had $5 in my pocket, I was golden. I mean, I was rebuilding my life. The sun rose every morning and I could see it and enjoy it. I had a job. And so the pink cloud effect lasted for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And then things started normalizing, but I dealt with my emotions by dealing with my emotions. Sometimes I talk about them with friends or, fellowship people. Sometimes I wrote about it. Sometimes I thought, I'm just not having a great emotional time right now. I did an old friend eating disorder kind of reared its ugly head again to the point where I did seek some counseling for that. And that clarified a lot of things for me. But in terms of emotions, I didn't go for the reach anymore. I didn't go for the instant fix anymore. And the same with emotions of happiness. Okay. I didn't even think of having a drink to celebrate. So, yeah.
Now, was your husband, were you guys married through this alcoholic state, or you weren't married yet?
No.
Guys, I lost her for some reason. Okay, there she is. I don't know what happened, but it's okay. We lost her. She's back.
No, Phil and I did not meet until
something happened.
Yep. Phil and I did not meet until about 6 years after I had quit drinking, and my life was much different by then. And so he never saw drunk me. And that's the way I want to keep it.
Okay, good.
I told him that if I ever pick up a drink, he has to divorce me because he does not deserve a drunk for a wife because I know what drunks do.
Wow. Okay. So how long has it been since you've been celebrating sobriety?
It's July 20th, 1987 was my first sober day, and I think that is 13,000, I want to say 659 days. Let me check that. The AA, okay, that's just not what I want to do. Okay, it's not working.
Great job.
Never mind. It's over 13,000 days, and
awesome.
It's almost 37 years. 37.
Awesome. That is an incredible story. I don't know if anybody was watching and listening. If you have not been tuning in, this young lady just went through in 30 minutes alcoholism to sobriety. And I am just impressed because I am going to say, without naming names, I have someone dear to me that was a functioning alcoholic, and people who know me might know who I'm talking about, but it's hard because sometimes that person never kicked it for a time that he was forced to kick it because of medical reasons and then relapsed because of personal reasons. And it just brought back all the memories of days that were hurtful, never physical, but always verbally abusive. And I think that part of it, Miss Annette, nobody knew about in our lives. The verbal, because we hid it so well. And the support that that person had made them a functioning alcoholic. Whereas if you didn't know, you didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's hurtful. The things that can't come out of someone's mouth when alcohol has taken over your brain,
Yeah.
that chemical, and then they don't remember, but you do. You heard every single word that they said that was hurtful, and you can't take it back. And you can't even have a conversation with them because they don't believe they said it. So
I know exactly what you mean. I've lived that. My father was an alcoholic who amazingly was able to quit in his early 50s. And my mother almost died from alcoholism in early 2000, and amazingly, she was able to quit. My poor brother Stephen, he couldn't escape. But the things they say, you never forget. And you never
not a word.
open their eyes either. I know.
But a good thing is that I don't know about anybody else. I was able to forgive. Okay. And I forgave before they left this earth. So I'm okay with it. And I think it's one of the things that kept me from drinking, when you see it and it's so close to you. And I'm not just talking about immediate family. I think I really truly believe you when you say it's hereditary, because I've had family members, I mean large number of family members, who drank, and not drank just socially, drank to get drunk and don't remember anything that they've said or done, where they are. You're having to go get them for places that you wouldn't go yourself. And it is truly, truly a problem. Hi, Miss Peaches. Zelene, she said she really enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Zelene.
So I'm trying not to say, and I'm trying not to get emotional, but alcohol to me was one of the things. When I saw everybody in my family around me drink to get drunk and don't remember everything, that's one I didn't want to do. I said, I'm not going to do it. I didn't do it. And to this day, all my friends want to give me drinks. Oh, you need to try this one. You like it. The taste of alcohol disgusts me. It really disgusts me. And I don't drink it. I don't drink wine, beer. I don't like the taste of it. But I think I built up this intolerance of it because of the mental me. The physical me doesn't want it. So I wish people would stop telling me I need to drink stuff. I don't need to drink. I don't want to drink. I am crazy enough without it.
Welcome to the world of the teetotaler. Regardless of why they choose to abstain from alcohol, that is one of the big challenges still for people who are trying to work or working their sobriety. It doesn't just come to them. Is that if you are in a social occasion where alcohol is being served, and somehow someone gets wind of the fact that you are not imbibing, oh my God, there's always one at every party who says, oh, come on, not even one? You sure?
Yep.
Here, come on, give it a try.
Yep. And then Lynn Unger says, thank you.
Oh, hi, Lynn. How are you? She's a friend of ours from Minnesota. I love you.
Okay.
Say hi to Lou for me.
Well, guys, I thank my guests for watching. This lady right here has just done it for me. Miss Annette, you don't understand how thankful I am for you to come on and talk about this. You did it with such grace. I'm so proud of you. You are a powerful, heroic woman. And I want anybody who sees this to show it to anybody. Cast this out on your channels or whatever, because there are people need to hear that you can do this on your own. She didn't have to go to anywhere. She just looked in the mirror and said, "This is not who I am." And she kicked it herself. I appreciate your story.
May I add to that a little bit? And number one, thank you very much for your comments. My advice to anyone who is struggling with alcohol and wondering, do I have a problem? And wondering, do I have a problem that I can't overcome? There are many ways up this mountain. Doing the one day at a time process alone is one way, a very viable way of working your sobriety. Going to fellowships is another. Seeking medically driven treatment is another. Going to individual counseling is another. Alcohol is one of the most powerful and destructive substances in human history. It hits you immediately. It crosses the blood-brain barrier within 90 seconds. It destroys by seducing you while creating huge destruction on the human body.
Right.
Whatever path you choose, know that there are many paths for you. And help is out there no matter what format you need. I promise you. And it's worth it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Oh, guys, I just want to say this lady is amazing. She is so amazing. I want to say thank you to this amazing person, Miss Annette Simmons Brown. Alcoholism is real, ladies and gentlemen, but you can kick it just like she did. So I'm going to say goodnight to her, but I want to say goodnight to all my guests. So just hang around for a few minutes. All right, Miss Annette?
All right. Thank you very much for having me, and have a wonderful evening. I hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you. All right, so please email me at scurry.latasha@gmail.com if you or someone you know has an interesting story to tell. You please, I am always looking for ordinary people with an extraordinary story to tell. In each and every person that you know, I am here for you. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit on the notification at Domesticated Diva, and watch on Sunday nights on Facebook for any upcoming shows. I'm Latasha Scurry. Thank you for watching Wednesday Night Whispers on LSTV. See you soon.